Exports of ICT products in January hit a record high for the month, reaching above $29 billion with semiconductors spearheading these shipments. And this comes as memory chips are in high demand, and South Korea's SK hynix leads the market with high bandwidth memory chips. For more, we have our Kim Do-yeon in the studio with us. Welcome back, Do-yeon.
Thank you for having me.
So, Do-yeon, what are the details behind the latest numbers?
Right, as you said, ICT exports showed a significant increase in January amid high demand for memory chips, which Korean companies are strong in. Let's first take a look at the latest report. South Korea's information and communication technology sector has started the year by shattering previous records. According to the Trade Ministry on Thursday, ICT exports in January reached $29.05 billion, a 78.5% increase on year. With exports at $14.09 billion, the nation posted a massive trade surplus of $14.96 billion. This historic performance was driven almost entirely by semiconductors. Chip exports alone more than doubled to $20.55 billion. Breaking that down, the surge was led by memory chips, which skyrocketed 154.4% to $15.72 billion, fueled by demand for high-value products like HBM and DDR5 chips. This is likely to continue for the foreseeable future, as there is a severe shortage of HBM chips amid the AI boom.
Capacity will start to expand from the end of this year into 2027. However, until 2028, most supply is already locked in through long-term agreements, so the shortage will persist. Whether the shortage continues after 2028 will depend on how much demand increases by then.
This sold-out market has driven up export values across all major regions. The value of shipments to China, South Korea's largest market, rose nearly 95% to $11.76 billion. Exports to Vietnam jumped 63.6% to $4.67 billion, while exports to the European Union increased roughly 31%. Notably, exports to the United States recorded triple-digit growth, surging 110.7% to $4.62 billion as American big tech firms scrambled to secure essential AI infrastructure.
It really puts into perspective just how critical these chips are. Now, by looking at the numbers, so Do-yeon, the U.S. saw a massive surge, triple-digit growth. Now, we know this is driven by NVIDIA, but why do they need so many of our chips specifically?
Right, to understand that, we first need to look at how semiconductors are classified. Let's take a look at this graphic. Broadly speaking, chips are divided into two main categories, memory and system chips. On the left, you have memory chips like DRAM and NAND, which store data. Think of them like a filing cabinet. On the right, you have system chips like GPUs and CPUs, which process data like a brain doing calculations. NVIDIA designs the GPU, the processor that does the heavy lifting for AI, but that brain needs to access a massive amount of information instantly. That's where South Korea comes in. The nation makes the HBM, or high bandwidth memory, which is a type of DRAM. You can't just have a fast brain, you need a super fast filing cabinet right next to it. NVIDIA literally cannot build their AI accelerators without attaching HBM chips to their GPUs. That's why you see that massive spike in exports to the US. They're buying every single HBM chip SK hynix and Samsung can produce.
So it is a symbolic relationship, but with the demand this high, surely other countries will try to get in on this. Now, was the shortage expected, and where does China stand in all of this?
Now, that is a big question. Everyone knew AI was coming, but almost no one expected to be this fast, which is why we have this shortage. SK hynix is only able to supply 60 to 70% of current orders because it didn't expect the demand. Also, that's one of the reasons why it has been seeing large profits. Now, as for China, they are investing heavily, but they are playing catch-up.
In the case of DRAM, there is currently a gap of about 2 to 3 years between South Korea and China. Because of this, China uses most of its domestic DRAM for legacy products, while South Korea's DRAM is used for high-end smartphones and data centers.
Now, a 2 to 3 year gap That's significant in the tech world, Toyon. Now, if we're sold out until 2027, what is the next step for our chip makers?
Well, the race is speeding up. So while the two South Korean companies are currently dominating with HBM3E, both Samsung and SK Hynix are already moving to the next generation, HBM4. In fact, Samsung Electronics has already made a leap as it announced that mass production and shipment of HBM4 began today. A world first. They're calling it the world's best in terms of performance with a massive bandwidth of 3.3 terabytes per second. That's nearly triple the speed of the previous version. Crucially, they've expanded the capacity by stacking 16 layers of DRAM. A single HBM4 package can now hold up to 48 gigabytes of data. This is a game changer for training larger AI models. This is actually about a week earlier than the company set as a goal and adds to the company's efforts to reclaim the top spot from SK Hynix in terms of memory chips. SK Hynix is also readying its HBM4 mass production and is already developing the next version, HBM4E, for 2026 and 2027. The trend is moving toward custom HBM, where memory chips are tailor-made for specific customers like Google or NVIDIA, blurring the line between memory and logic.
I see. Toyon, thank you for the comprehensive coverage tonight. We appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.